My name is Esperanza. I'm 47 years old right now, and I need to tell you a story that will leave you speechless, brothers. I was born in 1978 in Toluca, state of Mexico, in a small tin house that didn't even have running water. My father was a mechanic and got drunk every day on cheap Hulk. My mother sewed shawls outside and cried watching Cradle of Wolves on the broken television we had. Life at home was hell from Jamaica. My boss would come home really drunk and beat my mother with his belt. I slept on the dirt floor and ate nothing when there was water. The water we drank came from a dirty well, full of filth. It was a bad misery you can't even imagine. Friends, we lived worse than dogs on the street. When I was 12, in 1990, my mother got a boyfriend, Raul. That bastard drank just like my dad and looked at me with the eyes of a pig. One night my mom had gone to the town pharmacy to buy cough medicine. I was watching Rosa Salve when he came in really drunk, his eyes bloodshot and muttering like an animal. "Come here, kid," he said to me in a thick voice, staggering like a drunk at a fair. I tried to run, but he grabbed my arm with his big, filthy hands. It was that night that my childhood died forever, brothers. He raped me right there on top of the old mat. While Veronica Castro flashed on the screen, I was bleeding and screaming, but no one heard me, no one came to save me. After that horrible shit, I started cutting my legs with razor blades. It was the only way to soothe the pain in my soul. You know what? Every time I saw those pretty actresses in soap operas, I swore to myself, one day I'm going to be rich and powerful like them. I don't care what I have to do. That phrase ran through my head day and night. Raul continued abusing me for years and years. My mother acted stupid as if she didn't know anything. I lived in fear, but also with a really badass rage building in my chest. I wanted to get out of that messed up life no matter what. I dreamed of being an actress like Maria Felix and Sylvia Pinal I saw in old movies on television. Things got worse when my dad found out I wanted to be an actress. He gave me a beating and yelled at me, "The actresses are, you're going to work in the Escuintla fields." That night I heard him talking to a truck driver about selling me. They were talking about money, about taking me somewhere else. My blood ran cold just thinking about it. The cigarette burns my dad gave me on my arm still hurt like hell. He said it was so I would learn not to dream up stupid dreams. "Screwed up people don't become artists," he repeated, hitting me with whatever he could. But that only made me angrier. I saw those scars and promised myself that one day I would get revenge on all those bastards. In December 1994, I heard my dad on the phone about handing me over to some guys. He was trading my body for 1,000 Mexican pesos. That morning, I grabbed the only 100 pesos he had hidden under his bedroll. I stuffed my rags into a grocery bag. It was now or never, bro. I wasn't going to let them sell me like cattle. On January 15, 1995, at 4 a.m., I left the house. I was barely 17 years old and had a crazy dream in my head. I got on the first bus headed to Mexico City with those 100 hard-earned pesos in my hand. I watched through the window as Toluca shrank into smaller dimensions. I never wanted to see that cursed town where I was born again. During the 2-hour trip, I imagined my new life in Mexico City. I was going to arrive, go to castings, become a famous actress. How stupid I was. I had no idea what hell awaited me in the capital. I didn't know that to fulfill my dreams, I would have to sell much more than my body. I would have to sell my very soul. The northern bus terminal was packed when I arrived. It was 6 p.m., and I didn't know a single soul in that immense city. I clutched my grocery bag and saw all those people running everywhere. Mexico City was gigantic, terrifying, but it was my only chance to escape the hell I was living. I had no idea I was entering an even worse hell, brothers. I arrived in Mexico City without knowing anyone and with barely 100 pesos in my pocket. The first night I slept in the Zocalo subway station, on the freezing cold floor, along with other homeless people and street kids. The smell of urine was unbearable and rats were crawling all over my legs. I woke up flea-bitten and with my body aching. It was January 1995, and the Chilango cold seeped into my bones. The first few days I was looking for work everywhere. "Do you have experience, Jarita?" They asked me everywhere. I was a 17-year-old girl from the village. Without even finishing high school, I started eating garbage from restaurants and drinking water from rain puddles. My stomach hurt from hunger, and I cried, secretly thinking about the soap operas playing on TV. It was in Lamhurst. "If you want to eat, you have to work the streets." Yolanda, a 15-year-old girl, very high on drugs, told me, "It's 20 pesos per customer, it's enough for some tacos." It made me feel really sick just thinking about it, but the hunger was getting stronger. Little by little, I gave in to the pressure of survival. Brothers, my first customer was a 60-year-old man in a motel right near the market. He smelled of sweat and his hands were grimy like a mechanic's. He gave me 20 pesos and said, "You're okay, babe. Are you worth more, girl?" I left the feeling dirty inside and out. I used the money to buy some tacos and cried myself to sleep on the cold sidewalk. The months went by, and I got used to that shitty life. I worked the streets to eat, slept on the sidewalk, and bathed in the public fountains downtown. It was 1996 when I met Roberto, a 55-year-old jerk who pretended to be a television producer. "I can make you famous, little darling," he said with a fake smile, "but first, you have to take some auditions to see your talent." Yes, Roberto took me to a basement in the doctor's neighborhood, which smelled musty and had nothing but a mattress on the floor. "This is where we do the castings," the jerk lied. There was an old camera on a tripod and 2 very weak spotlights illuminating the place. He drugged me with a pill dissolved in hibiscus water. "It's a vitamin to make you look prettier in the video," he said, laughing like crazy. When I woke up, 3 assholes were raping me while Roberta recorded everything with the camera. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. They were making a porn movie, and I was just a puppet in their filthy hands. Roberto sold those videos to porn theaters for 500 pesos each. I didn't see a cent, and he beat me up and complained. It was around that time that I started getting drunk to enjoy life of the first time was one afternoon in December 1996 when a girl offered me, "You forget everything, you're on cloud 9, she said, lighting the dildo. 2 tugs and I felt like I was flying. The pain went away. The fear went away, but the addiction was here to stay. In December 1996, I had a really bad overdose. I'd been smoking crack for 3 days straight without eating anything. Suddenly, my heart started racing, and I fell to the floor, convulsing like crazy. The other girls took me to the general hospital. The doctors said I died for 4 minutes. I saw horrible demons dragging me down until a light pulled me back up. When I left the hospital, I found out I was pregnant. The father could have been any of the bastards who abused me. I didn't have the money to get an abortion at a private clinic. A woman took me to a house in Tepito where they performed clandestine abortions. It was a dirty kitchen table with rusty instruments, and everything was fine. The procedure was done without anesthesia on that filthy table. I screamed in pain as the old woman shoved dirty instruments inside me. I bled a lot and almost died from the hemorrhage. I spent 3 days between life and death in a stinking bed. When I got better, I felt more dead than alive. I had lost my son and my dignity. Brothers, in 1997, watching Maria, La del Barrio, on a TV show, I saw Talia shining on the screen. She was beautiful, rich, famous, everything I wanted to do. There, sitting on the dirty floor of Lamhurst, drugged up with crack and without any hope, I made a decision. I would do anything to get out of that life, absolutely anything. I didn't know that the very same man was listening to me. Brothers, it was October 31st, 1997, Halloween, and I was at rock bottom. Brothers, I was 19 years old and I had been living on the streets of Mexico City for almost 3 years. My body was destroyed by crack, my face was covered in sores, and I weighed barely 40 kilograms. That cold dawn, I walked to the Zocalo, determined to end it all. I couldn't stand living like a human zombie anymore. Dude, it was almost 2 a.m. when I arrived at the Plaza de la Constitución. The streets were deserted, and a freezing wind cut through my skinny body. I climbed onto the railing of the National Palace and looked down. It was pretty high up, At least it'll be fast, I thought. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, preparing to jump. It was my last chance to find peace. As I was about to let go of the railing, I felt an invisible force pull me back. It was as if icy hands grabbed me by the shoulders and threw me to the ground. I fell back onto the concrete and felt an unearthly cold take over my body. The air became heavy and difficult to breathe. Something was happening, something I couldn't explain. Dude, suddenly, all the lights in the square began to flicker strangely. The lampposts flickered on and off, in a sequence that seemed deliberate. The few dogs wandering around the area began to howl desperately, as if they were seeing something horrible. The silence of the early morning was broken by the terrifying chorus of barking and howling from all sides. It was then that I saw the pigeons. They began to fall dead from the sky, one by one, as if something was killing them in the air. The smell, my God, the smell was unbearable. It was like sulfur mixed with rotten meat. I covered my nose with the sleeve of my dirty blouse, but the stench seeped into the pores of my skin. I knew something supernatural was happening. A black shrew appeared out of nowhere, gliding silently down the empty street. The car was spotless, shining like new, completely out of place in that squalid landscape. It stopped right in front of me, and the driver's door opened by itself. There was no one driving, but the engine was still running. My heart raced with fright. Brothers, a woman got out of the back seat with frightening elegance. She was about 60 years old, with grey hair tied back in a perfect bun, and she was wearing a very expensive fur coat, but her eyes were completely black, pupilless, lifeless, pure darkness. On her forehead, she had a pentagram-shaped scar that shone like a fresh tattoo. Esperanza said my name in a sweet voice, but it echoed strangely. I know exactly who you are and what you want. Her nails were long and painted blood red, looking like sharp claws. As she got closer, the smell of sulfur grew stronger. Goosebumps prickled my skin and I began to tremble non-stop. Colonel, how do you know my name? I asked her in a shaky voice. She smiled, showing teeth perfect and too white to be human. I know everything about you, my dear. I know you want to escape this miserable life. I know you dream of being famous and rich like the actresses you see on television. It was impossible for her to know that, but she was speaking the pure truth. My name is Kamala, and I can make all your dreams come true, she continued in that mesmerizing voice. I have a club in the hills. Club Lilith is a special place where special people like you find their true destiny. She extended her hand with red nails toward me. Do you want to come with me to meet him? I can change your life tonight, a voice inside my head whispered. Go with her, Esperanza, she has what you've always wanted. It wasn't my voice, it was as if someone was speaking directly into my brain. I knew I should run, but my feet wouldn't move. The desperation of 3 years on the streets was stronger than the fear. What should I do? I asked, trembling. Just trust me, Kamala answered, opening the back door of the Saru. At my club, dreams come true for those who have the courage to pay the right price. The interior of the car was all red leather and smelled of roses, completely different from the sulfur stench coming from it. I looked back one last time, seeing the gate from where she almost threw me. I got into the car, not knowing I was driving into hell itself. El Saru glided through the empty streets of Mexico City until she stopped at a gigantic mansion on the hills of Chapultepec. It was an imposing building with golden gates and perfectly manicured gardens. Kamala told me the property was worth 50 million pesos. Welcome to the Lilith Club, she said with a smile that sent shivers down my spine. This is where dreams come true, my daughter. We entered through a white marble hall with crystal chandeliers that must have cost a fortune. The walls were decorated with antique paintings, and there were golden statues scattered throughout corners. The furniture was gold-plated, and Persian rugs covered strange symbols engraved on the floor. I had never seen such luxury in my life. It was like entering a palace from a carnal movie. Come, I want to show you something special, Kamala said, leading me down a marble staircase that led to the basement. With each step, the air grew heavier, and the smell of sulfur returned. We came to a dark wooden door carved with strange symbols. She opened it with a golden key and turned on the lights. My mouth dropped open in shock and terror. It was a complete satanic temple. The altar was made of black marble with golden pentagrams engraved all over it. Black candles burned in silver candlesticks, creating dancing shadows on the walls. In the center was a red circle painted on the floor with symbols I had never seen before. The ceiling had paintings of demons and fallen angels in a bloody battle. Impressive, isn't it? Kamala asked, walking up to a wall covered by a mahogany cabinet. She opened the doors and smooshed her blood. Inside were 47 yellowed contracts kept in glass tubes, all signed in blood, she said, touching the scrolls lovingly. Each one represents a soul that chose greatness over mediocrity. Kamala grabbed some contracts and showed them to me. I could see names, I knew them from television, famous Televisa presenters, grouper music singers who played on the radio, politicians who appeared on the news. They understood that to have true power, you have to make sacrifices, she explained, putting the papers away. And now it's your turn, dear. But first you have to pass the test, Kamala continued with a sinister gleam in her black eyes. Not all the girls I bring here have the necessary determination, some fail, and well, let's just say they find other destinies. I felt a chill in my stomach. But my ambition spoke louder. After 3 years in misery, I was ready for anything. Kamala led me to another room where there was a golden cage in the center. Inside, a white dove fluttered its wings nervously. Your test is simple, she said, handing the key to the cage into my hand. Grab that dove and kill it with your bare hands. Strangle it until it stops moving. It's a symbol of your willingness to abandon innocence. My hands trembled as I opened the cage. The dove was beautiful, with soft feathers and frightened eyes. I can't, I murmured, looking at the defenseless little animal. Kamala laughed coldly. 2 other girls said the same. Guadalupe and Fernanda failed the test. She pointed to 2 photos on the wall of smiling girls. They were never seen again. Fear gripped me. If I didn't kill that dove, I could end up like Guadalupe and Fernanda. With my hands trembling, I grabbed the bird's delicate neck. It chirped desperately, trying to break free. I closed my eyes and squeezed. I squeezed until I felt the little bones breaking. When I opened my eyes, the dove was dead in my bloody hands. Perfect, Kamala clapped with satisfaction. You have what it takes, Esperanza. Now I can make my proposal official. She wiped the blood from my hands with a silk cloth. We offer you 10 years of absolute fame. You will be more famous than Talia, richer than Veronica Castro. You will be the queen of Mexican soap operas. And what is the price? I asked, still trembling with the dove's blood stuck under my nails. Kamala smiled, showing those 2 white teeth. Your beloved soul. In January 2008, on your 30th birthday, you will die and come to serve Our Lady Lilith as a succubus in the kingdom of darkness. You will be our sex slave for all eternity. My heart raced, but the desire for fame was stronger than the fear. Kamala scheduled the ritual for the December new moon, on New Year's Eve of 1998. It's the perfect moment, she explained. When 1 year dies and another is born, the veil between the worlds thins. I spent those days at the mansion preparing myself, bathing with strange herbs and fasting. My body was being purified for something I still didn't fully understand. Carnal. On the night of December 31, 1997, at 11 p.m., luxurious cars began to arrive at the mansion. Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, all black with tinted windows. I peered out the window and saw elegant people coming in through the front door. I recognized some faces from television, anchors from television and TV Azteca that I used to watch when I had a TV. It was surreal to see those celebrities there. Kamala dressed me in a long white dress that looked like a First Communion dress, white to symbolize your purity before the transformation, she said, combing my hair. She placed a crown of flowers on my head and painted strange symbols on my hands with red paint. Today you are born again, Hope. Today you become immortal, my daughter. We went down to the temple at 11:30 at night. There were at least 50 people dressed in black robes and golden masks. They all formed a circle around the black marble altar. In the center, A black goat was tied up and bleating desperately. Black candles illuminated the scene, creating dancing shadows on the walls. The smell of alcohol mixed with sulfur was dizzying. "Brothers and sisters," Kamala shouted, raising her arms, "today we offer a new soul to Our Lady Lilith." Everyone began to chant in Latin with a hypnotizing melody that echoed off the stone walls. I stood in the center of the circle, trembling with fear and cold. The goat looked at me with frightened eyes, as if he knew what was going to happen. A masked man approached with a shining silver dagger. Without hesitation, he cut the goat's throat in one swift motion. Blood spurted hot onto the altar and splashed onto my white dress. The animal convulsed for a few seconds before dying. Kamala grabbed a golden cup and filled it with the fresh blood that was still there, dripped from the animal. "Drink," she ordered, extending the cup toward me. The blood was hot and had a horrible metallic taste. I swallowed it, forcing myself not to vomit. "You're now connected to the animal kingdom," Kamala explained, taking the empty cup, "but the most important thing is still missing, your own essence, my dear." Kamala led me to a side table where there were strange silver instruments. She grabbed a thin needle and pricked my index finger. A few drops of my blood fell into a small gold saucer. "But we need something more intimate," she said with a grim smile. "You're on your period, aren't you?" "Yes, I was on the second day of my menstrual cycle." "Take off your underwear, Kamala," he ordered, with my hands shaking with embarrassment. I obeyed. He placed a container between my legs and collected menstrual blood with a syringe. "Life blood, creation blood, woman's blood," he chanted, mixing everything in a small golden saucer. The red liquid shimmered in the candlelight like a magic potion. An ancient scroll was unrolled on the altar. It was written in Latin with golden letters that glittered by themselves. Kamala dipped a raven feather in a mixture of blood and handed it to me. "Sign your name here." She pointed to a line at the end of the document. "With this, you accept 10 years of fame in exchange for your eternal soul, my daughter." I grabbed the pen with trembling hands. It was my last chance to repent, but ambition was stronger. I wrote hope in trembling letters, using my own blood as ink. The moment I finished, as soon as I signed, I felt something icy and viscous entering my mouth. It was like an ice snake slithering down my throat and into my stomach. At that instant, my right pupil turned permanently red, and an unbearable pain ripped through my body. I fell to the floor, convulsing while everyone shouted, "Abe Lilith, Ave Lilith." I felt as if something was tearing my soul apart. It was exactly midnight when I woke up, had arrived, and with me, a new creature was being born. I was no longer human, brothers. On January 2, 1998, just 2 days after the ritual, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was someone from the Televisa production team calling me. "Esperanza, she's talking about the production of El Privilegio de Amar. The lead actress was in a car accident yesterday and needs to be replaced immediately. Can you come for a casting today at 2 p.m.? I almost fainted. How did they get my number? Arriving at Televisa San Angel, I went straight to Director Carlos Sanchez's office. He was chatting with other producers when I walked in. The moment our eyes met, he stopped talking mid-sentence. His eyes glazed over as if hypnotized. "That's her," he murmured to the others. "Cancel the other casting calls. Esperanza is our new leading lady." During the first weeks of filming, I realized something strange was happening to me. When I looked into people's eyes, I could see things, hidden sins, secret fears, forbidden desires. It was as if their souls were books open before me. Ernsto LaGuardia, for example, would get visibly nervous when we acted together, breaking out in a cold sweat for no apparent reason. My beauty also changed in a supernatural way. I never raged, wounds healed in hours, and my hair grew perfectly without the need for a stylist. During the filming of Rosalinda in 2000, other actresses commented among themselves, "Esperanza doesn't seem human, there's something strange about her." I heard everything because my hearing had become super acute. Carnal, supernatural manifestations began to appear on the sets. Cameras would mysteriously fail when I walked by, microphones would pick up strange static, and lights would burn out without explanation. The technical staff would whisper that I was. Once during a Brose Mui Futi in 2001, I managed to make a water bottle levitate just by looking at it. No one saw it, but I knew my powers were growing. My dressing room became a place feared by the workers. Objects would move on their own when I got angry, and everyone would feel a strange chill upon entering. A racer Arambula once told me, "Esperanza, when I'm around you, I feel like someone's watching me. It's very frightening." I didn't know that demons were actually following me all the time. What scared me most was my power of seduction. I could make any actor fall in love with me just by whispering in their ear. It was as if my voice carried an irresistible black magic. Eduardo Yanez even fainted after I whispered a few words in his ear during a romantic scene. The doctors couldn't explain what happened to him. In the early mornings, when I arrived at my apartment in Polanco, they would appear. Demons in human form, dressed like elegant executives. "Esperanza," they would say in echoing voices, "it's time to work for us." They forced me to seduce specific people, politicians, businessmen, other artists. It was as if I were a human hook used to fish for souls. One night in 2002, between love and hate, I was ordered to seduce an important PRI senator. "Make him fall in love with you," they ordered. We needed him on our side. I used my supernatural powers to make him completely obsessed. Within a week, he was doing anything I asked. This was how the Kingdom of Darkness was expanding its influence in the world. The most disturbing thing was feeling my humanity slowly disappearing. I could no longer truly cry. I felt no compassion for anyone, and even laughing became impossible. It was as if my soul was freezing inside. When I saw other people showing genuine emotions, I felt a sick envy. I had traded my humanity for fame. In 2003, during the recordings of Volodyanovia, I began to speak strange languages without realizing it. They were languages I had never heard, but they came out of my mouth naturally. One day, Carlo Estrada asked me, "Esperanza, what language were you speaking earlier?" I didn't even know I'd spoken something different. The demons were using my voice even during the day. The first 5 years of the Pact were incredible professionally. I was the most sought-after actress in Mexico. I was earning fortunes. I lived in a luxurious penthouse, but inside I was dead. At night I looked in the mirror and saw my red pupil glowing in the darkness. It was the constant reminder that my soul no longer belonged to me and the worst was yet to come. During the filming of Volodyanovia in 2003, I met Marisol, a 28-year-old actress who was romantically partnered with Sebastian Rulli. She was the only person who wasn't intimidated in my presence. "There's something different about you, Esperanza," she would tell me, laughing, "but I like you like that." Marisol became my first true friend in years, and that was her final downfall. The supernatural manifestations at Televisa were becoming impossible to hide. The cameras at San Angel captured demonic shadows moving around me during filming. The technical staff whispered that I was bewitched. Once, during a romantic scene, all the microphones picked up voices whispering in Aramaic. Production had to redo the scene 3 times until they got a clean audio. Marisol began to realize that something was seriously wrong with me. She saw me talking to myself in the dressing room several times. "Who are you talking to, Esperanza?" she wondered. I said I was rehearsing lines, but she didn't believe me. One night, she followed me to the parking lot and saw objects start flying around me, water bottles, chairs, scripts, everything levitating on their own. "My God, Esperanza, what's happening to you?" Marisol screamed, running toward me. I was in the middle of a rage because a worker had contradicted me. My demonic powers were out of control, and I didn't even realize it. "You need spiritual help," she said, hugging me. "This isn't normal. There's something evil following you." Marisol began researching demonic possessions and influences. She brought me Christian books and tried to convince me to find a father. "Esperanza, did your soul see someone, right?" she asked me one afternoon in October 2003. My eyes turned red with rage, and I yelled at her, "Don't get involved in my life." I threw her against the wall using only the power of my thoughts. During the recordings of a Puesta por un Amor in 2004, the protests got worse. Objects flew across the sound stages when I got angry, and the microphones picked up demonic voices whispering my name. Sebastian Rulli even had unexplained panic attacks after performing with me. When I see your eyes, I feel like I'm seeing hell. He confided to Marisol. Marisol learned about Carmela and the Lilith Club through her research. She found reports of other girls who had disappeared after visiting the mansion in the hills. Esperanza, that Carmela is a satanic witch. She made you sign a demonic pact. Marisol cried, trying to convince me to seek help. You can still free yourself. Jesus can break any chain. One night in December 2004, Marisol invaded my apartment with a priest. Let's say a prayer for deliverance, she said, but when the priest began to pray, every object in the living room began to fly, glasses shattered, pictures fell off the walls, and I began to speak in demonic tongues. Get away from me, I screamed in a voice that was not my own. The priest ran away in fear. The demons who visited me were furious at Marisol's interference. She's disrupting our plans, they whispered in the early mornings. She needs to be eliminated before she causes more problems. I begged them not to hurt my only friend. Please leave her alone, I'll do anything, but they only laughed with sounds that chilled my soul. On March 15, 2005, Marisol called me, crying, Hope, I'm seeing horrible things. Demons are chasing me through the city. I was driving on the ring road, returning from a meeting with an exorcist. They're in my car. Help. That was the last thing I heard before the call was cut off. My heart froze with terror. The accident was inexplicable. Marisol's car flipped 7 times on the ring road for no apparent reason. The security cameras along the road showed disturbing images, huge shadows around the vehicle moments before the accident. Investigators could not explain how a car traveling straight, with no other vehicles nearby, could have lost control. Just like that, Marisol died instantly from a head injury. At the funeral, I literally cried tears of blood. My eyes bled as I lay beside the coffin. It was my fault, I whispered. She died because of me. Carmela appeared at the cemetery dressed in black, smiling coldly. Now you understand the consequences of challenging our power, he whispered in my ear before disappearing among the graves. From that day on, I understood there was no turning back. Anyone who tried to help me would die. I was alone, trapped in a pact that was eating me alive. And there were still 3 years until the deadline, 3 years that would become my personal hell on earth. Brothers, after Marisol's death, my life became a constant nightmare. It was 2005, and I was at the height of my career with my stepmother, but inside I was rotting. The demons no longer gave me respite. They appeared even during the recordings, whispering threats in my ear. Only 3 more years, Hope, they would say, laughing. Your soul is already half dead anyway. In September 2005, I began to feel terrible pains in my lower abdomen. It was as if something was corroding me from the inside with acid. I went to ABC Hospital and the doctors ran every test possible. When the results came out, Gonzalez turned pale. Esperanza, this is impossible. You have a tumor in your uterus, but it's growing in the shape of a perfect pentagram. The tumor was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Medicine had never seen before. The CT scans clearly showed a 5-pointed pentagram made of cancer cells. Doctors called colleagues from all over the world to view the images. In 30 years of medicine, I've never seen anything like this, said Gonzalez, shaking his head. It's as if it were a mark, a signature of something supernatural. The most terrifying thing was that the tumor beat like a heart. During the ultrasounds, you could see and hear the rhythmic beats, thump, 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 as if it were a demonic baby growing inside me. The nurses refused to be alone with me during the scans. They felt evil presences in the room, and some even fainted from fear. When I vomited, blood came out, mixed with strange symbols. They weren't just clots, they were perfect drawings of inverted crosses, pentagrams, and demonic runes forming in the toilet. I photographed them several times because no one would believe it if I told anyone. It was as if my body was expelling the same evil that was growing inside me. The doctors at ABC began to report strange experiences when they examined me. Drive. Carlos said he felt shadowy presences every time he entered my room. It's as if something was watching me during the procedures, he confided to the head nurse. Some medical devices mysteriously failed when they touched me. In March 2006, I received the worst news of my life. My sister Soledad had called me crying from Toluca. Hope, I'm very scared. I've seen demons round the city following me. I was driving on the Mexico City highway, returning from a trip to the capital with my 8-year-old niece. They're in the car with me. Help. That was her last word before the line was cut off. The accident was captured by highway security cameras. The footage showed Solitude driving at high speed, being chased by enormous shadows that flew around the vehicle. Suddenly, one of those shadows